civilization would be set back hundreds of years, if not eliminated entirely. And that's really not an exaggeration. If a Carrington event took place...
Yeah, I can't imagine restarting, bro. I can't, bro. Nigga, if we ever have to restart, nigga, it's over. I'm done. I'm not playing the game no more, man. Hell fucking no, bro. There's no way in hell I'm doing this shit. Ain't no way you going all the way back to the Stone Age, bro. Come on, bro. I need my iPhone, bro. I'm sorry. I need it. I need it, bro. I need my GTA 6, bro. I need my Twitch. I need my YouTube. I need my Instagram baddies. I need them all, bro. I need it. All right.
I see money. I see money. I see baddies. I see dead niggas, yeah.
We back. Another reaction video, man. We got every time the world almost died, man. But boy, trust me, bro. It's gonna be my first time reacting to him, bro. You feel me? I'm mad curious on when we almost got obliterated, bro. You know, I seen meteors, UFO sightings, you know. Maybe Jesus almost came back and he just changed his mind. I don't fucking know. But if I've heard it, let's get straight to it. No, okay. Ignore my chat. Everyone's in school, and I'm just trying to get this
I don't know about you
real
guys,
quick.
but to me, it seems like doomsday scares are only becoming more and more common. Every day, we're either being told that the world is going to end or actively ending, and honestly, I'm just sick of it. If you're old enough to qualify for a senior's discount, then you might remember the Y2K scare of the year 2000. And if you're at least old enough to use this website, then you might remember the 2012 scare where the world was supposed to end as well. Regardless, all of these fake world-ending events got me thinking, what were genuine time?
I still remember as a Christian, I thought Jesus was gonna come back like 2 years ago, bro. I'm like, nigga, everyone was talking about it, dude. But yeah, we're still here. I actually have a prediction that God is gonna come back in the year 7000, because it's, you know, kind of like how there's 7 days, and you know he rested on the 7th day, you know. So like maybe he comes back. I don't know. It's a whole bunch of shit.
In history, when the world was its closest to ending. And well, my findings are this video. And as always, this video is only going to get crazier as it goes on. The Carrington event. It's a warm summer's night on August 28th, 1859. The sun had only just set, and this night was supposed to be like any other. Typically, after the sun sets, the sky only gets darker and darker. However, on this night, the sky was illuminated like never before. Eyewitnesses report that the sky appeared to be illuminated from the heavens, and others mentioned how the sky was a deep red as if it were engulfed by a wildfire. The night sky was so bright, in fact, that it actually awoke gold miners working in the Rocky Mountains, and they not only woke up, but began their workday in the middle of the night because they assumed the sun had risen. And it's reported that in New York, you could even read the newspaper at midnight due to how bright the night sky was. With this being said, it begs the question, what was in the night sky? Was it an asteroid? Was it a wildfire? Well, some of you might have already guessed that it was the Aurora Borealis. But these were no regular northern lights. The lights that were seen in the night sky on August 28th were visible for nearly a week. But it's not just the duration that's impressive. These lights were visible globally. Not only was the aurora visible from the North and South Poles, but it was also visible through North America, South America, Cuba, Hawaii, Japan, China, and even New Zealand. But this aurora wasn't just a pretty light show. Although it was an interesting spectacle to witness at night, during the day, this aurora was wreaking havoc on the rather simple technology that existed, most notably telegraphs. Because of the geomagnetic-induced current from the electromagnetic field, telegraphs all across the world failed. But not only did they fail, they even shocked the operators. Telegraphs in some locations were sparking, breaking, and curiously, in some locations, telegraph operators were disconnecting their batteries from the telegraphs, and the telegraphs would still work without power. There's even a recorded conversation between 2 telegraph operators in Boston and Portland, who both disconnected the batteries from their telegraphs, but were still able to have a 2-hour-long conversation. And while this is interesting...
Bro, how the fuck were they communicating? Like, I don't know how they did it, bro. I don't know how they did it. It doesn't
necessarily sound apocalyptic. And well, you'd be right. And that's because the Carrington event was caused by a massive solar flare. An event that is typically pretty harmless to humans. However, I wanted to mention it first in this video for 2 reasons. 1, because it's the most tame entry on this list we're going to discuss. And 2, because it's extremely interesting to theorize what would have happened if this solar storm happened in the modern day. A day where we rely so heavily on technology. And luckily, we don't have to speculate. Because in June of 2013, a joint venture from researchers at Lloyd's of London and the Atmospheric and Environmental Research Committee used real data from the Carrington event to estimate the cost of a similar event in the modern day. And what they estimated was that if the Carrington event took place in 2013, it would have cost in the US alone $600 billion to
Hey man, listen, bro. Yeah, I'm telling you, bro. Anything with technology going down, bro. I ain't gonna lie, bro. Technology is way more like, at this point, an EMP would be way worse than like a fucking nuke, bro. Like that ass, bro. Cause at least with a nuke, it's like, okay, you know what I'm saying? You killed some people, you destroyed some infrastructure. Nigga, EMP, you basically, it's over. It's GG's. There's no going back, bro. You destroyed all the technology, bro. We got no food, no cars, no cell phone. It's over, bro. That ass, like we rely on technology too much, bro. That's just the reality, man. You know what I mean? Nigga, are we in debt? Like, honestly, how are we gonna pay this shit, bro?
$0.6 trillion in damages, which
feel like
at the
our
time
debt
would
is
have
higher
ranged
than
from
this
roughly
shit.
3 to 15% of the annual GDP for the entire country. But numbers aside, what would this look like for humans? And the reality is scary. Most of the world would experience one of the biggest blackouts of all time. And this blackout alone would cause major issues, such as lack of communications, lack of transportation, lack of refrigeration, and so much more. Traffic
you,
lights
bro.
would go down, hospitals would lose power, air traffic control would lose communication with planes, grocery stores would be empty,
Niggas
looting
be
and
flying,
riots would
just be
begin.
like-
Like, seriously, just imagine if the world lost
Crash.
electricity for even 2 weeks straight. Now imagine that going on for months, and maybe even years. So much would be going wrong. Besides
Yeah,
just
bro.
that, all
Still
banking
me.
and purchases would be unavailable, supply chains would basically completely halt, and the economy and likely civilization would be set back hundreds of years, if not eliminated entirely. And that's
GG's,
really
bro.
not an exaggeration. If a Carrington event took place,
Yeah, I can't imagine restarting, bro. I can't, bro. Nigga, if we ever have to restart, nigga, it's over. I'm done. I'm not playing the game no more, man. Hell fucking no, bro. There's no way in hell I'm doing this shit. Ain't no way you going all the way back to the Stone Age, bro. Come on, bro. I need my iPhone, bro. I'm sorry. I need it. I need it, bro. I need my GTA 6, bro. I need my Twitch. I need my YouTube. I need my Instagram baddies. I need them all, bro. I need it, all right? I can't lose it, bro. I
in the
can't.
modern day, and it was not detected in advance and precautions were not taken in advance, then it's estimated that it would take up to a decade for all of the power grids that were affected by the solar storm to be fully restored. Now, before you get too scared about a whole modern day Carrington event, understand that with modern technology, we would be able to detect and plan for a Carrington level event to ensure that none of this happens. But before I give you
Okay.
too much hope, understand that some experts say that Carrington level events take place every roughly 150 years. And the last Carrington event was
Nigga, I'll be alright, bro.
160 years ago, meaning
What?
that to some, we could be overdue. Now, talking about times the world almost ended is fun, but what's not fun is looking
Nah, I'll
for a
stop
doctor.
it. It's all
That
good.
is, unless you're using today's video sponsor, ZocDoc. ZocDoc, you
Bitch ass up, nigga. Bitch ass up.
today. That's the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Cuban Missile Crisis is likely one of the most
we learned about
famous
this in
historical
school.
situations that had relatively minimal casualties, but could have potentially resulted in the most casualties ever recorded. I think it's safe to assume that most of us are familiar with the Cuban Missile Crisis. However, I will give a brief summary for those who are not so familiar. But beyond that, I want to focus not only on the entire situation, but on some of the more notable events that took place within the missile crisis that brought us inches from nuclear war between two of the world's largest superpowers. In
Gosh,
October of
damn.
1962, the
Kinda
Soviet
big
Union
as shit.
decided to secretly put nuclear missiles within Cuba. This secret operation was quickly exposed to the American government, and instantly concerns were high. Why are the Soviets breaking their agreement, and why are they putting nuclear warheads 90 miles away from our soil? Tensions were obviously at an all-time high, and slow communication and language barriers did not make the situation any easier. Once these secret missiles were exposed, the US government knew they had to respond, but they had to also be strategic because they knew the wrong response could result in nuclear war. It's kind of ironic because at this time, America already had nuclear warheads in Turkey off the coast of Russia. However, with the Soviets now having nukes off the coast of America, things were serious. And while I know that's an oversimplified explanation, it's kind of all I got for right now. But one interesting observation I'll make was that although tensions were extremely high, from my understanding, the leaders of both the United States and the Soviet Union did
they
not
was smoking
want to
that
go into
gas.
nuclear war. Obviously, because they both knew very well that this could result in the end of humanity. However, for the soldiers that were actually on site, seeing their enemy directly in front of them, the urge to take shots and potentially start a war was a lot more appealing. And it's actually those situations that I want to talk about. During the entire Cuban Missile Crisis, the US President John F. Kennedy really just wanted to find the best way to have the missiles removed from Cuba peacefully. And the leader of the Soviet Union kind of just wanted to have their secret operation to be swept under the rug without repercussion. And obviously the result of the entire crisis was a mutual agreement to have nukes removed from Cuba and Turkey. However, what took place during the 13 days of the crisis left humanity inches from ceasing to exist. One notable incident that took place during the Cuban Missile Crisis happened on October 25th, 1962. It was late at night at the Duluth, Minnesota military base when one of the guards noticed a suspicious figure climbing the fence into the military base.
That?
Obviously, the guard understood what was going on and realized his military base was under attack. He quickly ran to his post and pulled a sabotage alarm. However, by some, the sabotage alarm was misunderstood and was actually taken as an alarm that activated a launch alert at Volk Field in Wisconsin. And this launch alert that was activated at Volk Field prompted the immediate deployment of nuclear-armed jets. With these nuclear-armed jets having their sights aimed at basically anything Soviet, if one of them were to have fired on Soviet or potentially even Cuban troops, America would have likely been met with nuclear retaliation, sparking the first ever nuclear war. Now here's the interesting part. After these alarms were set off—
don't worry guys, we'll not have any type of nuclear war because I am here. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. I will stop it.
It was discovered that there was no person sabotaging or climbing into the military base at all. What the guard had noticed was actually a bear climbing the military base fence. And with that discovery, the launch of the nuclear-armed planes was canceled with only minutes to spare before pilots took off and the first nuclear war ever would have begun. This was only one example of numerous odd situations that took place during an extremely tense time where the relationship between the Soviet Union and America was razor thin. And even mistaking a bear on a military base in Minnesota could have caused the world to end. World War II. Okay, hear me out. I figured if we're gonna talk about the time we almost had a nuclear war, we should probably talk about the time there was literally nukes dropped within war. But I know I've talked about World War II a lot on this channel, so I'll keep this segment brief. I would say at this point, it's generally accepted that World War II was the deadliest conflict in human history. The entire 6-year war involved over 100 million people from 30 different countries, and battles literally took place on every continent beside Antarctica. And this entire brutal situation ended in 1945 when Germany surrendered to the Allied powers in May, and Japan was forced into submission in August when the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs. And well, once again, that's a massive oversimplification. You get the idea. World War II was hell on earth and literally killed an estimated 70 to 85 million, which was roughly 3% of the world's population at that time.
Hey, shout out to my
not
Japanese
only did the
niggas.
world almost end, but humanity lost 3% of its population, which is insane. But besides all of the crazy things that actually took place in World War II, let's discuss some of the things that almost took place. One of the most notable things that was bubbling was the development of nuclear bombs in the hands of the Nazis. That's right, after attacks on German soil, Hitler wanted to retaliate on American soil badly. He's even quoted saying that he wants to level all of New York and basically capture the rest of America. Hitler wanted so deeply to bring World War II to American soil that he was literally developing a bomber plane that could fly to America and back. And he just so happened at the same time to be developing a nuclear bomb as well. And unfortunately, the Nazis never got their hands on functioning nuclear bombs. I don't think it's hard to imagine what would have happened if they did. And the world that we live in today would look a lot different if it still existed. And just imagine what would have happened if—
But like I said, I would have stopped it, you know. I would have stopped. Actually, no, if it happened before I was born, then GG's. Sorry, my fault.
And decided to have nuclear retaliation against America. Japan had already successfully brought World War II to American soil. And if they happened to have had functional nukes and a death wish, then they too could have escalated World War II into global annihilation. But of course, during World War II, only America had successfully developed nukes. And as a result, they essentially told the entire world to sit down. And the nukes that were dropped on Japan is still a lesson that has not been forgotten to this day. And I actually think that it's those nukes that were dropped in World War II that gave America and the Soviet Union so much reluctance to actually use the nukes that they were placing, which—
Hey man, you know, sometimes you just gotta pull the button, bro, just to let niggas know you really like that, bro. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, RIP, but you gotta do what you gotta do, bro. This is life. This is the human race. You feel me? I had to do it.
It's a good thing. And thinking about these situations now, it's almost like comparing a balance—
Can you watch Rag and the Crimson anime? Dude, I can't. Why? Like, I literally can't. I will get fucking banned. I'm sorry.
Act to dominoes. Because in World War II, it seems like one domino hit another domino and the situation kept escalating and escalating until more and more countries and more deaths happened until at the very end, we saw nearly 100 million deaths, every continent, nearly every major country, and the most deadly weapon ever produced finally put a stop to the entire situation. However, with the Cuban Missile Crisis, the entire situation was a balancing act trying to not go too far in either direction to actually trigger anything because the tensions and technology were already so high that one wrong move or one domino falling could have literally led to the end of the world. The Bonilla observation.
Damn.
This genuinely might be my favorite
hell is
story
that?
in the entire video. In the year 1883, there was a Mexican astronomer named Jose Bonilla. And during
Jose?
a regular shift, Bonilla noticed something
don't really
relatively
look
obscure
Mexican.
in his telescope. And for this reason, Bonilla took many photographs and wrote many notes of what he was seeing through his telescope. Interestingly, the photos that he took are regarded as some of the first images of unidentified flying objects. But
Oh,
trust me when I
shit.
say this section has nothing to do with aliens. The objects that were seen through the telescope were basically impossible to decipher. Like, just look at this image on screen right now. Can you tell what that is?
Just woke
and for that
up,
reason,
bro.
it
Yo,
was
what's
basically
good?
left to speculation.
I thought
Bonilla
you'd be
ended
at
up spending
school.
2 days taking 447 ink photographs of the objects he was seeing through his telescope. And in the following years, Bonilla actually had his observations published in a French astronomy magazine. And French astronomers that observed Bonilla's photographs essentially said pretty confidently that there was either birds flying above the telescope or insects crawling on the telescope or something along that line.
like
and
a
roughly 4
spider,
years
bro.
later, in 1920, Bonilla passed away.
This
And while that is
assertion,
where
does that
Bonilla's
mean
story
2
ends,
streams
that's not where the
today?
story of his observation
Nah,
ends.
no.
Because in October of 2011, 90 years
just have
after Bonilla had
class.
passed away, another Mexican astronomer decided to take a
'Cause I
peek
usually
at
don't
some
stream
of
on
Bonilla's
Mondays.
photos. And the conclusion that he came to was not that he had seen
But I was like,
geese or
fuck it.
dust or bugs,
I wanna get
but he
these
actually
videos
had
out.
witnessed a comet exploding in space. And these modern-day Mexican astronomers were able to extrapolate that, assuming that Bonilla's timings and notes were correct when observing his UFO through his telescope, it's believed that the objects that he was witnessing were roughly 500 to 8,000 kilometers above Earth's surface and roughly 70
Oh,
meters
shit.
to 800 meters in length. And because Bonilla observed 447 objects in roughly 3 hours and over 3,200 objects in a
slept through the
25-hour
stream
period, the modern-day
yesterday?
astronomers
Damn.
estimated that the original comet, before it exploded, had a mass that was roughly equivalent to 8 times of Halley's Comet. But they not only
Holy
estimated the
shit.
size of the original comet, but also said that if any of the fragments of this broken comet had impacted with the Earth, it would have likely been the equivalent of 3,275 Tunguska events in 2 days.
Better.
And if that means nothing to you, then just understand that the Tunguska event was a massive explosion, roughly 3 to 50 megatons in
Bro, y'all can't tell me God don't exist, bro. Cause it's like there's just so much shit that could have fried us and it just didn't. It's like, come on, bro. You can't say we this lucky, man.
size
like,
that took place in Russia in 1908. That singular explosion alone was significant. But what these astronomers are claiming is that if these comet fragments that flew extremely close to the Earth had impacted with the Earth, it would have resulted in an explosion over 100,000 megatons in size, causing something they called, quote, probably an extinction event. And while the
GGs.
thought of the story is absolutely terrifying,
Oh my
I also
gosh.
kind of love the implications.
Bro,
There's a
that
Mexican
saving
astronomer
our
who saw
sorry
something
asses.
interesting
Nah,
and
for
spent
real,
2 days
bro.
studying it. He submits his notes and
I
photos for
guarantee
publishing
there's so
in France,
much shit
and they basically go, oh, you saw a
we
bird,
just
you saw a
don't
bug.
see,
He
bro.
then dies, and 100 years later, other Mexican astronomers are like, oh, no, that's not a bird or a bug. That was basically the closest we've ever come to asteroid-induced human annihilation in, well, a long
Damn.
time. The Lake Toba eruption. Every situation we've discussed
Hey,
so
man.
far has occurred in roughly modern history. However, this is the turning point of the video where we get prehistoric, which is actually a good thing because the situations we're about to discuss are literally insane. And the Lake Toba super
Okay.
eruption is a great start to
the fuck is that?
the second half of this list. Lake Toba, Indonesia is the modern day location of one of the most severe volcanic eruptions possibly in all of Earth's history. And it's believed by some that the result of this eruption was a trackable decline in human genetic variation. But let me take a step
What?
back. The Toba super eruption that we're discussing
Genetic
is actually the
variation.
most recent in a series of eruptions that happened in the same volcano. This Toba eruption we're discussing took place only 74,000 years ago. And I say only because the eruption that took place before this one took place 1.2 million years ago. Meaning that within the
Alright, bro, we not that old, man. Come on, bro.
context, this one wasn't too long ago. Regardless, this eruption was significant. And as I mentioned, it was a super eruption. And what qualifies it as a super eruption was the fact that it had an estimated volcanic index of 8, making it the largest known explosive volcanic eruption in almost all of Earth's history. And I know that kind of just sounds like a lot of big numbers, but to kind of try to put this in a bit of context, in 2022, when the Hunga Tonga eruption took place, that volcanic eruption was estimated to have released 2 to 3 cubic kilometers
Jeez,
of
man.
ash. And if you look at the pictures and videos and satellite imagery of that explosion, that is so much ash that was released. And it was
Bro.
truly a devastating event. event. However, if you think 2 to 3 cubic kilometers of ash is a lot, the Toba super eruption released 2,800 cubic kilometers of volcanic material. And this volcanic material had a major impact on the Earth's climate. Unsurprisingly, this volcanic eruption caused a volcanic winter, but this winter was rather significant, not only because it blocked out the sun's rays from entering the Earth's atmosphere, causing a global cooling by several degrees, but it's also believed that this period caused a 1,000-year cold period following the initial volcanic winter. Although that claim is disputed by some, and others say it would have only lasted 3 to 6 years before temperatures would have gotten within a few degrees of, once again, normal. Regardless if the cooling period was 6 years or 1,000 years, the effects were the same. Crops and vegetation across the world withered and died off, causing animals to die, and therefore massive famines among early human populations. And this volcanic winter isn't just speculation either. Core samples from both Greenland and Antarctica confirm a sharp cooling period at this exact time in history. But this is where things get really interesting, because some researchers believe that the Toba eruption was so significant that it's actually linked to a genetic bottleneck that took place during human evolution. And within this theory, it's believed that the global human population was drastically reduced to essentially a few thousand humans. That's it. Just imagine that, a global population of humans in the thousands. That is a crazy thought. And to some researchers, it's believed that this catastrophic event is the exact reason why there is a relatively low level of genetic variation in humans, because there was a time where so many humans were wiped out and we all
Man, I ain't gonna ask Cap. I don't know. Some of this shit
stem from a group of a few thousand humans roughly 75,000 years ago. And while this theory isn't necessarily proven or unproven, in the scientific world it's considered controversial, as the theory is making a bold claim and it's not quite proven yet, and there is some physical evidence to disprove it as well, meaning the conversation is still actively ongoing and relatively heated as well. But that's kind of beyond the scope of this video. The facts are this: 74,000 years ago, there was one of the biggest volcanic eruptions of all time, and it undoubtedly had a huge impact on human, animal, and vegetative life across the entire globe. And while the Toba super eruption is crazy to think about,
how big was that fucking explosion?
The circumstances were just a bit worse, and if the Earth just got a little bit colder. Because if that were the case, potentially those last few thousand humans wouldn't have existed, and you and I would not be here to tell the story today. The Chicxulub impact. Okay, quickly before we get into this one, I realized how short we are for time, so if you guys are enjoying this video and want a part 2 with near world-ending events, please either leave a like or leave a comment telling me you want part 2. I'd be happy to make it, but for this video, I gotta kind of end it in this section. But with that being said, we're ending on a bang, literally. The Chicxulub impact is likely the most famous asteroid impact on Earth in the last billion years, let's say. If you're telling yourself, I've never heard of the Chicxulub impact or the Chicxulub crater, then allow me to speak in more broad terms. The Chicxulub impact or the Chicxulub crater is believed to be the impact site of the asteroid that killed 75% of all life on Earth. All plants, all animals, all vegetation, and this includes the death of all dinosaurs.
Man, get out of here, man. Bro, dinosaurs, bro, like dead ass, I don't even know anymore, bro. They could have existed, but you know me, bro, like I don't know. I haven't seen any specific evidence, man.
I should reiterate that it's not the death of this life forms, it's the instant extinction of these life forms, meaning that likely 99.9% of all animals died, but 75% of all life forms were permanently extinct forever. But that's not even the craziest part. What's crazy is that for decades now, researchers have believed that dinosaurs must have been taken out by something instant and likely not from this world. And while this was unproven and unpopular in the scientific community, evidence was building. Specifically, a definitive
Bro, what the fuck is this? I mean, this one kind of resembles, I don't know how that's, I don't know. They reaching, gang. They reaching, bro. This dude really knows how to irritate my anxiety, bro.
Of clay within the Earth's sedimentary rock that is dated to be roughly 66 million years old and is...
Come on, gang. You tell me we 66 million years old, bro. Like, I don't know. That's cap, bro.
Full of an element known as iridium. Interestingly, iridium is technically considered...
Nigga, if we 66 million years old, bro, and we not fucking flying, like, come on, let's be honest, bro. You tell me we 66 million years old and we haven't discovered like any type of meta superpowers, gang? Like, Like, come on, bro, that's cap,
to be
bro.
the most rare element in all of the Earth's crust, meaning that when it was found in levels that were over 100 times normal, there was something to be said there. And interestingly, iridium is more commonly found in asteroids in space than it is on Earth, further validating the theory that potentially there was a massive impact that took place on Earth, and during the impact, the asteroid vaporized, shooting all of this iridium into the atmosphere, settling across the entire globe in this layer of sedimentary rock. But still, this wasn't enough to satisfy the scientific community, and it wasn't until the 1970s when it was proven that there was an impact site hidden off the coast of Mexico, in the Yucatan Peninsula. And this took place when an oil rig was drilling off the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. What this company found when drilling wasn't oil, but actually shocked quartz, which can only be found in large amounts at an asteroid impact site, further validating the theory at the time that there was a massive impact that took place that also caused a global event. I could go really deep into the weeds about the scientific politics that took place during the entire discovery of the situation, but the result was this. It was eventually found out and confirmed that there is a massive impact site off the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The crater is roughly 200 kilometers in diameter and roughly 30 kilometers deep. It's believed that the asteroid was roughly 19 kilometers wide and approached Earth at a speed of 36,000 miles per hour. And the impact that took place 66 million years ago had results that life on Earth had likely never seen before. The direct impact itself is estimated to have an explosion equivalent to a bomb that was over 100 million megatons in size. And the result of this violent explosion was global earthquakes in magnitudes over 10, massive global tsunamis, massive global volcanic eruptions.
Gosh damn, like what kind of meteor was that, bro? Like
massive global forest fires due to flaming debris falling essentially globally, and then global cooling caused by all of the debris that was sent into the atmosphere, blocking out any natural sunlight. Literally, just imagine the strongest forest fires, the strongest winds, the strongest storms, the strongest explosions, the strongest earthquakes, the strongest natural disasters, all happening all at once times 1 million. I am literally struggling to find the metaphors and words to try to convey the power and impact of this sheer event. And honestly, I feel like I'm doing a poor job, so just understand this. The Chicxulub impact was undoubtedly one of the most, if not the most, significant times in history when not only humanity, but the world was closest to ending. And if you enjoyed this video about time
closest, nigga, it did end at that point. Like, ain't no fucking way niggas survived.
The world almost ended. Check out the video on screen right now. It's a video about the worst times humans ever lived.
That looks interesting. Shit, man. Holy, I don't know. Obviously, the stuff at first was actually real, but last couple, you know what I'm saying, was just kind of bullshit. But who fucking knows, man? Bro casually ignored the most severe extinction event that we know of, the Permian-Triassic extinction event. I don't know what the fuck that is, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Ain't no one surviving that, bro. Holy, man. Anyways, man, all my YouTube people, bro, hope y'all enjoyed the video, bro. If y'all did, make sure you hit that like button, bro, and hit that subscribe button. Turn on post notifications so you know what to post next, man. Check out my Twitch live right now, bro. Link in bio. And join the Discord. And with that being said, just remember, Jesus loves you. And I'll see y'all later. Peace. This video over.
Freestyle flows like Michael Phelps. Feel like MJ cause I'm feeling myself. Morphine catch me killing myself. Goddamn, man, I think I need help.